In this video, we're going to look at how we write the equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular to another line. So the thing that we want to remember first is a little bit about parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite in sign. So opposite, it doesn't look like how you spell opposite. I think it is. Opposite sign and reciprocals. So we would flip the fraction over and then also change it from being positive to negative. Okay, so we're still going to need the same two things that we've been needing all of this time that we're writing equations of the lines. We're going to need slope and we're going to need a point. So the parallel and perpendicular part's going to come in when we're trying to find the slope. So for example, given the line y equals negative 5, 6x minus 6. And so the first thing we want to do is find the line perpendicular to this and through the point 5, 6. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to find the slope. So in this case, I don't have 2 points to find the slope, but what I know is that the slope, the number in front of the x, once I've solved my equation for y, the number in front of the x, this is the slope of the original line. So this is the slope of the original. And we said that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So the perpendicular slope and sometimes when we're talking about perpendicular slope, we kind of want a shortcut way of writing it instead of writing out the word perpendicular because it's pretty long. So we'll put an M with this little weird sign down here, but it's just kind of showing two perpendicular lines. So the perpendicular slope, so it's going to be the opposite sign. So the original slope was negative, so the perpendicular slope is going to be positive. And the original slope was 5 over 6, so the perpendicular slope is going to be 6 over 5. So the perpendicular slope is 6 over 5. And then I have my point, so I'm just going to plug that into y equals mx plus b. So 6 is going to be 6/5 times 5 plus b. So 6 is going to be equal to, so here the 5's are going to cancel, 6 plus b. Subtract 6 from both sides. So in this case, b is going to turn out to be equal to 0. So when I go to write the equation of the line, I'm going to have y equals mx plus b. And remember, I'm going to plug in for m and I'm going to plug in for b. So y is going to be equal to 6/5 x plus 0. Now we don't have to write that plus 0 part, so we could simplify this a little bit as just 6/5 x. In part B, we'll do a similar thing, kind of put a line down here, down the middle. But in part B, we're going to find the line parallel and through, we'll go through the same point, 5, 6. Okay, so parallel lines have the same slope, right? So the original slope was negative 5, 6, which means the slope of the parallel line, so the parallel slope. And again, sometimes we kind of want a shorthand way to write that. So you might see M with two little lines next to it that kind of look like a pair of parallel lines. So the parallel slope is still going to be negative 5, 6. It's the exact same thing. And so if we do y equals mx plus b, 6 is going to be equal to negative 5, 6 times 6 plus b. So 6 is going to be equal to, this is negative 36. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, I put the wrong number in there, didn't I? Whoops. This should be a 5, right? Let me rewrite that. Sorry about that. X is 5, so I have negative 5, 6 times 5 plus b. So negative 25 over 6 plus b. So we're going to add the 25 over 6 to the other side. So we're going to end up with 6 plus 25 over 6. This is going to be the same as b. 6 I can rewrite as 36 over 6. Because remember, this is 6 over 1. I want the bottom to be a 6, so I multiply the bottom by 6, which means I have to multiply the top by 6. So 36 over 6 plus 25 over 6 is going to be b. And then if we add those together, kind of running out of room here, b is going to end up being, so 36 and 25 is 61. So 61 over 6. So y is going to be equal to negative 5, 6x plus 61 over 6. Because remember, I'm plugging into that y equals mx plus b, but I'm just plugging in the m and the b. So we'll do another one. So in this one, I might as well change to black, back to black here. So consider the line 3x minus y equals negative 2. And part A, we'll find the equation parallel to the line and through negative 2, 2. And I'll just write part B right here now too. Find the equation perpendicular to the line and through negative 2, 2. Okay, so in both of these, the first thing we have to do is find the slope now of the original line. If you look at the original line here is not solved for y. So you cannot do the slope until you see that it's solved for y. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So 3x minus y equals negative 2. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So minus y equals minus 3x minus 2. And then remember this negative here, it's like you have a negative 1. So you have to divide everything by negative 1. So in the end, we have y equals 3x plus 2. And so that original slope is right here. It's the 3, right? So this is the original slope. So when we go to do our parts, we're going to need the perpendicular slope and the parallel slope. So the parallel slope, remember parallel lines have the same slope. So the parallel slope is still going to be 3. And the perpendicular slope is going to be, so I can think of this 3 as 3 over 1. So the 3 was positive, so the perpendicular slope is going to be negative, the opposite sign. And then the reciprocal, so if I flip over 3 over 1, it becomes 1 over 3. Okay, so in part A, we're going to use the parallel slope because part A asks us to find the line that was parallel. So in part A, we're looking at the parallel slope being equal to 3, and we have that point negative 2, 2. So we're going to start with that. Y equals mx plus b. So 2 is going to be equal to 3 times -2 plus b. So 2 is going to be equal to -6 plus b. So add 6 to both sides, and b is going to turn out to be equal to 8. So if I go to write that into my equation of the line to give my final answer, remember I want to plug in for m and I want to plug in for b. So y is going to be equal to 3x plus 8. So that's the parallel line. Part B asks us about the perpendicular line. So we're going to use that perpendicular slope, which is -1/3. And we're still using that same point in this one, -2, 2. So again, y equals mx plus b, 2 for the y, -1/3 for the slope, times -2 on the x, plus b. So 2 is going to be equal to 2/3 plus b. So I'm going to subtract 2/3 from both sides. So b is going to be equal to 2 minus 2/3. Come up here. So remember, 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So times 3 times 3. And again, I would just put 2 minus 2/3 in my calculator, but if you want to calculate by hand, this is how you do it. You would get 6/3 minus 2/3 equals b. So b is going to be equal to 4/3. And then again, we're just going to plug into y equals mx plus b, but we're only plugging in for the m and the b. So y is going to be equal to our m, which is -1/3 x, our slope. And then our b is 4/3, so plus 4/3. And that's the final answer.